Boker Tov, Yom Tov, Zarim Tovim, and Lila Tov. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Carrie. I'm going to share a word with you today. I've started a new playlist where we begin looking at single words and how it is connected to one love, which is my way of saying unconditional love in the process that we go through in our personal transformation, our personal maturation, our personal ascension, when we begin going within and dealing with our shadow side, being able to see a roadmap from beginning and end that encourages us to keep diving deep within ourselves, within our heart, to reveal the areas that still need to be healed. As being in the process of that, I am in the middle of that right now, even having more revelation this morning regarding emotions and the shame and guilt that has come with those things that I've put on myself, not for any other reason, but things that I have adopted from outside perspectives that have let me know that strong emotions aren't okay. So it's a beautiful walk. It's a beautiful revelation to see these things. It's challenging to walk them out as we really truly wake our hearts back up and allow ourselves to truly feel, to truly be alive and living from the space of the heart, completely wide open and full of light love. Anyway, having shared that, I would like to take us to a verse specifically, as there was one word that I think will help bring some clarity to people. I know I was sharing this with my friend Trisha, my new friend Trisha, and we were discussing it yesterday in her tutoring appointment with me. And it was something that I really felt that I needed to share. I had been researching the book of Revelation the night before, and there was a word that I saw, and I knew I needed to hold it. And it was very apparent to me that I needed to share it with Trisha because it really was speaking to both of us in the moment. And I love that. I love how the Spirit works that way to reveal exactly what we need in the moment so that we can continue moving forward in this journey in personal discovery and revelation in the time of the revealing. So let's go to that word. We are looking at Revelation chapter 13, verse 10, and I'm going to highlight the word for you here. It's a very long word, as you can see, and it's amazing to actually see what the root is, the meaning of the word, and all the letters. And Trisha had actually asked me to share with her or type out my interpretation of what I'm seeing in this word because she wanted to be able to remember and write it down herself. And I decided this would be a good word to share with all of us because this is the word that connects to patience. Now, in of itself, this whole verse has incredible information in it. But as many of you have seen, it can take me sometimes up to 2 hours to break down one verse. And I don't want to do that. I want to focus on this word here for patience and endurance. So let's take a peek at what in the Peshitta, through the Dukrana, they've said that this meaning is. Now, the meaning that they give to us in this word right here comes from the written form of this word. Now, it's not the root meaning, it is the written form and the definition that they have given to the manifestation with all the movements in its morphology that has taken a simple 3-letter word to make it all of this. And yes, for those of you who haven't experienced Hebrew and Aramaic before because you're new to the channel, it's important for you to see this because the root is like a static lump of clay. It's full of potential, and it is sharing with you what this potential is. And then we get to choose to activate it or have it speak to us by the letters that are added from that root or deleted from that root, as the root specifically deals with the inward man at the heart level, within the heart. So this is static. This is like a neutral place. It's a waiting for something to be done with it, molded and shaped to affect us, not only mainly really on the inside, but then how does that manifest in our external world as the matrix begins to reflect our inner world back to us, to prophesy to us so that we know what we need to work on. It's that mirror effect that in our place of maturation, we truly have our eyes open to begin to see how our matrix, the reality that we live in, is constantly communicating information to us. So let's go into this. I'm going to pop back out of this portion here because there's no longer any need to see it. I will tell you, for those who have a little bit of Hebrew under your belt, this is the Aramaic letters for Semek Bet Resh. Now, if you haven't been familiar with the Hebrew font, that would be challenging, and I get it because it's probably all Greek to you, but this is the Semek Bet Resh. And all these letters have been added to it, and we're going to talk about this here. So now, for those of you who are familiar with the Hebrew, this probably looks a lot better for you, or easy for you to connect to. And the root is right here, but it does have a yod added to it. So this little guy right in the center, right there, disregard that for the moment. We're talking about the root of the word and the meaning of the root, not what the definition is from its morphed out state of additions and deletions, because this yod was added to the inside, which does mean it is connected to your heart, specifically your inner man. When we look at the root of the word, the Semek Bet Resh, we have this, and I know you don't have this. This is from Janet McGeara's work from Light of the Word Ministry. It's her Aramaic Peshitta New Testament dictionary number lexicon, where she goes in and she defines through her own numbering system the roots and Hebrew equivalents, because again, Hebrew and Aramaic are meant to be unified. Hebrew teaches us the divine masculine principle, and the divine feminine is taught through Aramaic. As the Aramaic comes in the divine feminine to raise up the divine masculine so that they can become one. So everything that is within Hebrew is encapsulated as one with the Aramaic. So within the Aramaic word that we were looking at in the root, Semek Bet Resh, this is very big. The root of it has three different meanings to it, specifically. And then there's an additional amount of information that is coming because Aramaic is a very vast language, has much in it, as Hebrew does. And it's really a language of duality, which allows us to see duality to neutralize it into unity. The first meaning of Semek Bet Resh is think, suppose, consider. The second, preach, declare, and announce. Third, hope, expect, trust. Think, suppose, consider, preach, declare, announce, hope, expect, trust. And it has this additional added to it. Bear, forbear, suffer, sustain, feed, endure. Bear, forbear, suffer, sustain, feed, and endure. I could stop right there and we could just meditate on just those meanings that are all within the Semek Bet Resh. But there's so much more here. There's so much more here. When we take a look at these things, and I just find this, I find this fascinating. I find this absolutely fascinating to me. And I have such wonder when I look at the words. Part of what we find within this word, if you were to remove the vav and you remove the yod, and the only letters that you had were the mem semek, bet resh nun vav tav, you would have an Aramaic word that means preaching, gospel. So in this one word is the gospel message that we are to declare and to announce. We're to think upon it and consider it because it provides hope and expectancy and trust. Where? Within. And within is the place of Source Creator, the spark of life that was given to all of us as a fractal. But it does come with a forbearance of suffering and enduring through the process. When we see it in this form, minus the Vav, because really the Vav is a letter that means to connect, we have the word that means endurance, patience, long-suffering, and forbearance. So this is the activity. This isn't the static root lump of clay waiting as potential in a 0-point neutral state. This is actual an activation. So this would be what's considered a distortion. As a distortion is anything out of 0 point, out of the place of neutrality. And again, this is information, so we're not just judging it. So a distortion, if we're in the place of judging in the system of duality, we're automatically, or where I used to go, I would look at this and going, oh, that's bad then because it's distorted. Our goal is oneness unity. Our goal is the Mashiach. Our goal is neutrality, 0 pointing everything. So the process of getting there is going to have distortions occur as we calibrate our compass to get to the end result of neutrality. When I share these things with you, I'm actually speaking directly to myself. I'm hearing my own words. And if they bless you, great. But I'm speaking to myself here. And yet I'm speaking to us collectively so that we can hear it and be able to take these things and internalize them to calibrate our compass to the place of neutrality. There's many things that are hidden within this. And this is what I was sharing with my beautiful friend Trisha yesterday that I really want to point out to you. The first thing I want to point out is this is kind of, it seems like it's off the track, but really it is part of the system of duality, and it is a resource that we can look at to see from a different perspective, because that's our goal, is to see from many perspectives, to extract wisdom through experience and not attach ourselves to that, but rather observe it objectively instead of subjectively. Again, I'm speaking to myself here. What I have pulled up for you to look at right here is from Marcus Jastro's Dictionary of the Targum, the Talmud, and the Midrashic literature. And in that, this is from page 803. In the resource that I'm looking at, this is something that they give to you to look a little deeper to see what's within this word. Now, this isn't from the root, because the root would be Semek Bet Resh. So when I pulled up this page and I saw that everything started with the mem, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to dig. Well, that makes sense, because the mem, that in the written form, in the morphology, has a mem. It has a vav first and then a mem. So I'm looking to see what they're trying to connect as a piece of information that we need to look at. And we can see that much of the word right here where it says banqueting party, a banquet, and a dinner, a winding staircase. Okay, a winding staircase. Does that have anything to do with our DNA? I'm just going to throw that out there to you. But then we have the banqueting party and a banqueting dinner. Now, many of us are connecting still to that which we are familiar with the English translations of what a banqueting table looks like, a banqueting party. And some of you might already be connecting to Wedding Feast of the Lamb, which is a topic for another day. But I really want you to keep that in mind as we begin going on from here. A winding staircase, a banqueting table, a feast. This is beautiful. So that's part of what we're seeing right here. They had the aleph in there, or the hay, with this. And then we have these other additional letters added right in the middle of that. Interesting, huh? Well, again, they all have letters. All these letters have meanings, and all the words found within these long words all have meanings that go into paragraphs of information contained in one Hebrew Aramaic word. What we have here is also from a Hebrew root that means to go around. Now remember, if this is part to do with going around, this is connected to our suffering and enduring and that which we have to bear. because we're always going around and round to bring a resolve. And this is actually the patience and endurance that we need, of things that we need to think about and consider. Because really it's through our testimony that we preach, declare, and announce the hope that we have, the expectation and the trust that we have by going around and around as we learn through our suffering. We have another word right here, bar. This word has to do with an apparent heir to the throne. Now, this is more masculine in nature, and you would hear this in the term bar mitzvah versus the bat mitzvah. This is the place where we are accountable in our spiritual maturation that would equivalent in like linear years if it was manifested in the flesh from the age of 0 to 12 through right parenting. You would be entering into the age of accountability, which are known as the son and daughters of the commandments, those who have oriented themselves externally, practicing the golden rule. But there's more here. This is the place where we have winnowed ourselves. And winnowing versus threshing, winnowing has to do with air, tossing things up to remove the chaff, to expose the fruit. Now, this is very, very important because the fruit is our wisdom. The chaff is our experience and the roles we play that really have nothing to do with the outcome of the fruit that is being produced, the wisdom that we will take with us. All our stories, all our narratives, all our masks are just for an experience because they don't make up who we really are. It's just the mask we wear. So if we choose ourselves to be winnowed instead of threshed like wheat, then really we are as the barley, the first of the first fruits. Because we allowed the Spirit to winnow us, which means we go inside. And here's the beautiful part of that. Another definition of this 2-letter word here is to become pure and innocent. And why is that? Because we're removing all the chaff. We're removing all the stories, all the narratives, all the masks, so that what we remain is the pure and innocent portion that no longer operates in the system of duality, that does not see good nor evil, but where all things have become pure, back to the place of innocence. I don't know about you, but that's pretty amazing. Then we have another word here, ren, which means a ringing cry. A ringing cry. Normally, this word would be seen with a fallen noon. This is a risen noon. And I know that for some of you that don't know the letters, please don't get hung up on the letters. Listen through the Spirit. Listen to what the words are saying to you. This noon is not in its fallen state. There's 5 letters in the Hebrew language that are what are called the fallen letters, the sophites. And a sophite is in the end. I'm going to share with you here, okay? I'm going to share with you what the word sophite in part of its hidden meaning is, because you'll hear fallen noon, fallen ka, fallen sadi, but it's really, would be, in its fallen nature, would be called the noon sophite. Soph has to do with end, the end of something. That's again why these letters are only seen at the end of the word in their fallen position. So that's why we have Soph, which means at the end. And then the Yod Tav, we have a letter that means power, Yod, with the open hand, and Tav that means completion, signature, covenant, fingerprint. So in the end, they will have power as they've completed the journey and have been marked with covenant. So that means that nothing has to stay in that fallen state. It's declaring something to you that when you see it, it may be fallen right now, but that is not its end result. It's not its end state. So now this is no longer in its fallen position. So there's a ringing cry that goes forth that is going to be about raising ourselves up out of our fallen position into a position that elevates us, into a place that brings forth perpetuity. Noon is connected to the seed of life. It's connected to a strong base to stand upon. Then we have the utha as a suffix. This is a very important suffix because this is really 3 little letters that tell us the completion of the journey. This Vav is connected to something on the suffix side, and we'll go into that in a minute about the prefix and the suffix. I already shared with you that the root has to do with your inward man. It has to do with source. It has to do with the spark of life that's within you. It has to do with your heart. When we look at anything that's on the suffix side, which would be from the noon forward here, or backward, depending on how you see it, because Hebrew and Aramaic are from the right to the left. In English, we've flipped everything to the left to the right because we're backwards and upside down and inverted. Anything on the suffix side has to do with Father. And Father is in a position of teaching you. Again, it's a frequency. Mother teaches you one thing, Father teaches you another. Mother teaches you the divine masculine, Father teaches you the divine feminine. Why is that? Because they have to be balanced. Mother can't teach the divine feminine, Father cannot teach the divine masculine because they would be out of balance. And make no mistake, Mother and Father are one. But for our lack of immaturity, or lack of maturity in our immaturity, they had to divide their teachings to present it in the place of where we are spiritually immature, taking us to the place of spiritual maturation. So what I have highlighted here, this is Father's side. This is for the mature individual that has gone past the place of accountability. If you want to look at it this way, this would be the bride becoming the wife. Mother prepares you to become the bride. Father prepares you to become the wife. Place of maturity and intimacy. Why? Because Father is driving you inward. Intimacy, into me you see. And what we see here in the utha means one who is connected to Father. Father reveals the shadow. This is the hardest part of the journey. So when you connect to Father, this produces power, but it's power under control. This is the letter for meekness that takes you to the Tav, which is the mark of completion. And Tav Vav, the constituent letters that spell the symbol, means exempt from judgment. And why is that? Because when you get to the next letter, this is oneness unity. And oneness unity means that you no longer judge. You come from the place of unconditional love. This is the Mashiach. A lot of you have heard the word Mashiach as Messiah, because again, Messiah is a transliterated word because they didn't know how to write that guttural sound of the ach. Messiah, Mashiach. Trying to translate that, transliterate it in English so that we could try to comprehend and have something close to resemble that word. So you've heard Messiah and you've heard Mashiach for those of you who have been in Hebrew, but in Aramaic, it's Mashiach. It has an aleph added to the suffix of it from the root. And the very root of Mashiach is oil, a measurement. So the aleph is directly connected to the Mashiach. It's the place of the journey where you start and where you end. Coming from one, being divided into two, being separated, and then coming back around into one. But now instead of having that singular power, you have the thousandfold measure. There's so much here, and I'm not going to go into great detail, but I want to point this out to you because this is a letter that is directly connected to God, to Spirit, to the Mashiach, Christ anointing, to oneness unity. And this is something that you are in the process of becoming, and you become sealed in it. So this word, again, connected to the gospel message where we preach, declare, and announce, is a word that is used within the New Testament that is the complete gospel message. And I'm going to show this to you. So starting, and I will do my best to take in all the information I just shared with you and bring in a little bit more. I'll highlight the letters as we go. The first letter that I did want to discuss again is that Vav. And when it's on the mother's side here, it means to connect, to pierce. And this letter is a representation on mother's side of choosing to humble ourselves. Because one who chooses to be teachable automatically humbles themselves. The pride don't want to be taught. The pride believe that they know everything, and that is a position of fear. They mask. This is one who wants to connect, who has chosen to humble themselves. I'm not talking about being humiliated. I'm talking about a position of the heart that is of the bowed head nature that says, I'm willing to learn. So therefore, I've humbled myself. I'm choosing to enter in as a humble person that wants to learn, to connect to Mother's teaching. Mem has to do with the chaotic waters. So here we go with my interpretation of how I see as the mirror reflecting the work of that which I see manifesting on my outside to share with me the truth of what's going on the inside in the journey that I have chosen to take of my patience and my endurance. In the beginning, choosing to be humble and teachable, connecting myself to the waters of chaos by entering into the waters of chaos. I've entered into having the place of thinking and considering what the waters of chaos are telling me. As there's a message that has been preached and declared and announced that I'm really thinking about. And it's producing hope and deep trust and an expectation. But I've had to endure much. I've suffered much. But yet this message has sustained me. I see that the faith, this hope and trust and expectancy that I've been considering and pondering has been something that has surrounded me, hedged me in, supported and propped me up. I see it as the wedding ring and the signet ring of authority. As I've chosen to be winnowed so that I could be selected as one who is pure and innocent, an heir to the throne, having reached the age of accountability. There was a beautiful vision that was placed within my heart through this message, and it gave me power and a means and a direction as an open hand was extended to me, placing this vision within the center of my being, the place of my heart, showing me the work and the deed of my own hand of that which I must do, the work on the inside that matters the most while I'm in the waters of the chaos of the world. It showed me that it was an inside job, that there was a spiritual building that I needed to do that actually was assisting the family. Because I saw within how I needed to be pierced. I was on this inside, it revealed to me the place where I was poor and destitute, because I was really wanting to have fire upon my head, showing that an anointing would come, and actually revealing that I was already there, but I just didn't believe it, because I was poor and destitute by thoughts that made me think something different. And I had to walk through that one fire that was going to purify me and take away everything in my fallen flesh nature because of that inward vision that was placed in my heart. This is where I found the spiritual path of Father, the elevated path, not that of the material world, but that of the spiritual walk while in the material world. Something that gave me a strong foundation to stand upon, a strong base, producing a nature of royalty, continuity, perpetuity, something that would continue on and on perpetually, and not just my temporary moment in chaos. And it was through this inward journey that I then connected to my shadow, to that which was on the inside, to what Father was sharing with me, so that I could complete my journey, be marked with the sign of the covenant, completing, having the fingerprint of Father and Mother, because I no longer judge. I'm exempt from that because I've seen the purpose of the oneness unity. I've seen the thousandfold measure. I've tasted it because I allowed it to instruct me so that I could share and teach others in the area of where I have been given authority to speak forth revelation, because I tamed and yoked my beast ego nature. I entered into the one family. I see everything as one. The unification through the instruction of my heart and the authority that was given because of the revelation. This has been my patience, my endurance, my long suffering as a bearer of good news in sharing the gospel message of oneness unity through much long suffering. This has been truly my patience and endurance until the end. Shalom, shalom. Namaste.